Louisiana has set another record. We're leading the nation in high school dropouts. Today, we'll take a look at a unique program that is giving our dropouts a chance to complete their education on today's edition of Folks. Hello everyone, I'm Sonya Masingale. Welcome to another edition of Folks. Nationally, 1 in every 4 students entering school this fall will drop out before completing high school. In Louisiana, that figure is around 45%, or 1 in 2. Most dropouts just join the ranks of the unemployed. Those who do find jobs find themselves stuck in low-paying work with little or no hope of advancement. A lot of these kids wind up in juvenile correction facilities, and about 25% of the girls who drop out of high school do so because of pregnancy. Dropping out is not just a black problem, a white problem, or a Hispanic one. It's everybody's problem. It's costing Americans more than $75 billion a year to provide for dropouts and their families in terms of welfare, unemployment, lost tax revenues, crime, and crime prevention costs. Why is Louisiana leading the nation in dropouts, and what can be done to help the situation? Later on today, we'll try to find some answers to those questions. But first, News Director Rob Hinton tells us about a unique program in Baton Rouge designed to give dropouts and potential dropouts a second chance.
Well, I was hanging around with the wrong crowd and I ran away.
That's David Wingard, a former high school dropout and runaway. David is back in school trying to earn his high school diploma.
See, I dropped out of school last year, at the beginning of the year. And I was out the rest of last year, and this year when school started, I wanted to go back to school.
That's Maxie Bowlin, another former dropout. Maxie realized that life without a high school diploma isn't easy. These are just 2 examples of the thousands of students who drop out of school in Louisiana each year. It is a problem that is not limited to any socioeconomic level, race, or culture. During the 1984-85 school year, more than 800 students dropped out of East Baton Rouge Parish schools. That's the bad news. The good news is the community recognized the problem and decided to do something about it. Leading the attack against the dropout problem, the Baton Rouge Chamber of Commerce.
We are bad in leading the nation in dropout, illiteracy, teenage pregnancy, and the Chamber decided, let's form a task force on a couple of these problems and get involved instead of being critical. And dropouts became a major topic. We pulled about 25 people from the community together, religious leaders, social service types, school leaders, including the superintendent of schools. The mayor's office became involved, of course, business people through the chamber, and Southern University and LSU. And we sat at this table where we are today for many months studying the dropout problem. And we literally, instead of just talking about the problem, we said, let's get a model program in place and show Baton Rouge and the rest of the state, perhaps, that a community and partnership can address the dropout problem.
The results? Northdale Magnet Academy, an alternative school for grades 9 through 12. A career-focused school that allows students to pursue a high school diploma meeting all state requirements and at the same time explore careers. Northdale Academy opened its doors last fall with 120 students.
The goal of this school essentially is to keep the students in school, provide a place for them to go to school, and obtain their high school diploma.
That's Northdale's principal, Leroy Helire.
Traditionally, high schools are very large. I would estimate about anywhere from 1,000 to maybe as large as 1,800 students. And Most of the students we have here were those students who were not actively involved in the high school. When I say get lost, the extracurricular activities, the choir, the band, they weren't involved in these things, little social clubs. And basically, I think most of them were like unknowns. And that was a part of the reason for them not progressing in school, for wanting to leave. Because we are so small here, only 120 students here, much smaller school. It's much more of a chance for that student to be appreciated, to be seen. When he does something, no matter how small, we can notice it. That's a major factor in students wanting to come to school here, because it's smaller and they're able to assume their identity here. They're able to participate and be seen as someone.
Not all of the students at Northdale Academy are former dropouts. Many are seen as potential dropouts. Some function a few grade levels below their peers in traditional school. Some were chronically truant. Some were substance abusers. And mostly all of them were getting lost in the traditional school system. Arthur Thomas is an 11th grader who said he was getting lost at a traditional high school in Baton Rouge.
I was looking for a change. I thought I needed a little more help, and I saw myself falling in grades, so I decided to give Northdale a try. You get a lot of attention. You get special treatment. Everyone pulls you to the side and say, hey, look, you need a little help or anything.
Lettimarie Deemer also left a traditional high school for Northdale.
Because as soon as I came here, they asked me what I liked to do, what I didn't like to do. Was I shy? They taught me to come out of my shyness and start joining activities, so it wasn't too much difficult.
Tell me about the activities here.
The student council, we make some of the rules. We play in the parties in the morning for February for Black Month. We read these reports to tell about Black history. And we also, we get the students together and tell them what we want to do, what we plan to do, and what we want to accomplish.
Diana Gonzalez, another 10th grader, says the move to Northdale has also been positive for her. What do you find special about Northdale?
Well, you can work on your own level, your own rate. They don't rush you to do your work. Just take your time.
Northdale provides its students a basic academic program: math, science, social studies, and English. There is also computer programming, and soon the curriculum will include physical education.
What we have here is a competency-based vocational educational program. Accompanied with that, we have social services. And through the social services that we have where we obtain psychological counseling for our students. If there's medical help, we try to get that. Those services we try to bring into the school here. If there are personal problems at home, we try to work with those also. See, being smaller helps us to do this. Those are the advantages in being small here.
Yet the school couldn't work without teachers who can stir motivation and keep the students in the classroom.
That boils down to individual teachers in the classroom. One thing, you have good teachers. And you have teachers, and by the way, I'm not taking anything away from traditional schools, but once again, I'm saying the smaller, it's much easier. You have teachers in the classroom who care about students, and then in return, the students know that these teachers care about them. That's what's holding them in the classroom, number one. And because we are small, because in some classes we can have maybe 6 students, or maybe we can have that student to come back to the teacher in the afternoon and work with that one-on-one relationship. That's what's holding them. That's the key, to let them know that it's important that they learn. We can't make them learn, but it's important that they know that we want them to learn and want to help them to learn.
The teachers, they're nice to you, and they make sure you're into the right thing. They keep you on the right track. And there's a small amount of students here, so they get a chance to pay more attention to you.
What do you think of the teachers here?
They are nicer. They get along with us better. They treat us like we're teenagers instead of 5-year-olds. If we act up to our age, that's the way they treat us. And they don't pick out the person they want to. They help everybody. They don't just help one person.
What about your grades? How do they compare?
Totally different. At Broadmoor, I had, you know, D's and C's and some A's and B's. But here I get along better, so I make straight A's.
What about the teachers? Do you think they care?
Yeah, you know, they had a choice to be here just like we did, you know, and they seem like they really want to be here.
What about your grades? Do you see an improvement here?
Yeah, I was failing in Denham Springs, but I'm passing now. I make B's and A's. You know.
What is it about the teachers and the staff here that really makes you feel like they care?
That you get to know them, and like they get to know you and how you act and how you are, and it's just like they care more.
Oh, I made almost all F's last year. I made all B's for the semester.
Sherrie Spivey is an instructor at Northdale.
The desire of the students to complete their education, their willingness, even though it's not what they want to do sometimes, but that they're always still into, I want to get my education, that they recognize the value that a high school diploma is for them. Every day is different. I mean, you never know what's in store. I guess it's the same thing like their lives. You know, where they come from, they have lots of problems. And so we have to really be aware of how they're coming to us and then still do what we're here saying we would do. So it keeps you on your toes.
Student discipline is a major concern.
It's very volatile sometimes. And you have to know when to be able to be there and when not to. We haven't had a lot of trouble here as far as, given the kinds of kids and the backgrounds and the problems that they have, I don't think we've had a lot of trouble. It's always thought that the quiet classroom is the one where the children are learning, you know, so well and all this kind of stuff. And sometimes a noisy classroom actually can indicate where learning is happening. There's such a tendency, and I don't think it's just with teachers, I think it's human, for us to be in control. And so, like when you saw the young man that was talking in the back and the whole time, my whole thought was, I got to get him out of here. You know, I need to write him up. He needs to go to the office. And the truth was, when I took him outside, he was just finishing another paper for somebody else's class. And we just needed to talk a little bit. And, you know, he now knows what kind of behavior I'm looking for from him. So those are the kinds of things that you have to just, I would say, be with sometimes and give them a little room.
Career exposure is another important component of Northdale Academy's program. Maxie Bowlin is a part-time student worker for the Department of Environmental Quality.
They found it for me. They wanted, you know, somebody, a senior with good grades, and, you know, that put me in the qualification. And so we went down last Wednesday to the department, and I interviewed with Ms. Madden, and, you know, she wanted a high school student, you know, a worker. And, you know, when I, you know, talked to her and everything, before we left, she said, okay, come in Monday morning, you know, Monday at 1 o'clock, and, you know, we'll get you set up for your job. And, like, what I'm doing is, like, helping the secretary out and everything, you know, extra work they have to do and that they don't have time to do, run errands for them and stuff.
I understand you're in a very unique position, as you're going to be the first one to graduate, first and only one to graduate this spring. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel real good, you know, to be the first one out of a high school to graduate. It's amazing that it's me. You know, last year I didn't think, you know, I'd ever be back in high school and graduate, you know.
There is a very unique spirit at Northdale Academy, a spirit that you just don't find at most traditional schools.
They feel like they have a home, they feel proud that they have a school to come to, and that's important. And when we can, you know, when we can improve, and what I'm talking about is their self-concept. When we can improve that, man, we can work with them and we can get them to learn, and that's what's happening here. We're not fooling ourselves. We know it's going to take time, but that's the key. A lot of kids feel down on themselves. They've been put down by other people. But now you got to realize here, we're educating a lot of people. We're not only educating the student in class, but working with the parents, and we're helping educate that parent also. And teachers are learning. How do we adjust? How do we teach these kids? And thus that child who comes here who's been down and out, he feels better about himself, and we've changed that from a negative to a positive self-concept. Then they're going to learn, because all children can learn. It's just a matter of, touching the key, to unlock the door, and that's what's important.
And Northdale students have a lot to say to dropouts and those thinking about dropping out.
I'll tell them, do not drop out. Give yourself a chance and think about that's the way you're going to have to spend the rest of your life. If you don't make it out of high school, you may end up in any little job, if any job. You're really just playing with the rest of your life. It's a big decision to make, and dropping out will only make your problem even larger.
I tell them don't drop out, and if they decide to drop out, to come to Northdale to get a diploma instead of going trying to get a GED, because it's really not worth it. Because they have so many college students out themselves, and they'll get a college student a lit job before they give you, and you'll be just left, probably wind up on the street drinking or in a gutter somewhere. It's not really worth it at all. I tell them, look at yourself and look at your past, and then look at your future, And like if you drop out of school, there's going to be a cloud in front of your future, because you don't know what you're going to do the next day, where you're going to wake up at, or if you're even going to wake up at all, And like Dinah said, the GED, or Letty said, the GED, is not worth anything. You can't even get in the Army anymore with a GED, And if anything, if there's any way at all that you could stay in school, or you're going to drop out, check into an alternative school like Northdale and finish out your high school years,
A local news source states in East Baton Rouge Parish last year, around 800 students dropped out of school. Joining me in the studio to discuss these staggering numbers and some possible solutions is Rebecca Hutichinson, Project Director of Northdale Academy, and Fred Guillot, an instructor also from Northdale Academy in my favorite subject, mathematics. Welcome to folks, both of you. Thank you. First of all, that 800 student statistic, is that correct for East Baton Rouge Parish?
That is correct. Approximately 800 to 850 students did drop out of the local school system in East Baton Rouge Parish in year 85-86.
That's a lot of students. Is it that staggering around the rest of the state?
It is. The dropout problem is a tremendous problem nationwide, not only here in East Baton Rouge Parish.
Right. But statewide, we're leading the nation. We've said that a couple of times, that we're ahead of everyone else in dropouts. Does anyone have an idea as to why? Rebecca?
Well, there are many reasons that research points out that a reason why students are dropping out. One reason is because of low self-esteem, and because students are just not motivated like they should be, or like they used to be in the past. In some instances, there are home problems. There's peer problems. Quite a number of reasons that researchers have said are reasons for students dropping out of school.
But it's higher here than in any other state, as well as the illiteracy rate, as well as the teenage pregnancy rate. What is it about Louisiana that's making us stand out like a sore thumb?
Well, I understand that Louisiana is leading in literacy and dropout rate, as well as in the pregnancy rate. However, I don't think it's one reason why Louisiana stands out. I think what's important, though, is that Louisiana is finally taking a look at their problems, and specifically East Baton Rouge Parish is doing something to address those needs of our students here in East Baton Rouge Parish.
So, Fred, what's different about teaching students at Northdale?
Well, I've got quite a bit of experience in working with this kind of student. I worked in corrections with incarcerated youth, and in the competency-based education. And the difference I find is being able to work with individuals. And I'm finding a lot of these students don't need remediation It's being able to put all the things she's talked about and some of the things that they already know, put it into perspective. And just about the only way you can do it is to work one-on-one as much as you can and individualize things and slow down the pace.
They made some comments about getting lost in the traditional school system. How do you lose a student in the traditional school system, Fred?
In groups. One of the first things that you notice in an alternative school is you don't see desks in rows. And you know, communication. If you don't communicate with somebody, you lose them. And if you're facing the back of somebody's head, looking at somebody's back of somebody's head all day, how are you going to communicate?
Rebecca, do you care to comment on how you lose a student in a traditional environment?
Well, I agree with Fred. I think that in a traditional setting, there's a great, larger number of students in a classroom. There's no individuality within a class setting. I think the smaller the group is, the better it is to address their personal needs. A student needs to feel self-worth. And sometimes in a large group setting, the teacher or the instructor or whoever is in the classroom is unable to provide that special attention that a lot of students who possess the characteristics to become dropouts need.
My next question. How do you spot a potential dropout?
Well, research have it that a potential dropout is someone who is low academically, have failed one or more years in school, who has low self-esteem, who is either a non-participant in extracurricular activities within the school, a loner, someone who stays to himself at all times, someone perhaps who is a substance abuser. Those are the characteristics that most say are indicative to a dropout.
Fred, would you agree that those are the characteristics of
Yes,
dropouts?
and coupled with all of the environmental things that, you know, where we are today in Louisiana, not, you know, the students in schools are not the only ones having problems.
You're right about that.
And so we compound the problem, you know, it just goes down to our children. And we're seeing the effect of it in the classroom. I think there are a lot more potential dropouts today because of the economic situation than we had, say, 3 or 4 years ago. People are moving, unsettled, and what's the future, and all of these things cause people to just say, well, you know, I give up. What's the use?
How long was Northdale on the drawing board, so to speak, before it became a reality?
Well, approximately 2 years ago, the task force came together at the Greater Baton Rouge Chamber of Commerce and took a serious look at the dropout problem in East Baton Rouge Parish. I was a part of that task force. At that time, I was representing city government. We addressed the problem of what it is that makes students drop out, what can we do in this parish to address that problem. As a result of it, the Chamber of Commerce put together a planning grant for the Edna McConnell Clark Foundation out of New York. And as a result of that collaborative effort, Northdale Magnet Academy was established.
What do kids drop out of school to do? Fred, would you care to address that?
Well, any number of things. Most of them think that they want a job or want to work. They'd rather go to work than go to school. They don't need school. And they find out very quick that the job that they get is probably the only one they're ever going to have if they don't do something about an education.
Well, what are the chances of these students going on to higher education?
The chances are good, because most of the students, once you've enrolled them into a formalized type academic setting, are not slow learners. They do have the ability to pursue a high school education and to pursue higher education. Once we start dealing with the other variables that perhaps has caused them to become non-complacent or perhaps caused them to contemplate dropping out of school. Once we've addressed those kinds of variables, then we start then addressing the academic aspect of that student And that student has a very good chance of graduating from high school and going on to a higher education.
That leads me right into my next question, which is what kind of counseling services do you offer your students?
Our students receive personal counseling, family counseling, academic counseling. Whatever the need dictates per student, we provide that kind of services. One good aspect of Northdale Academy is that we bring social services into the school for the students and not necessarily refer them out to a social service agency. We have 8 counselors that we've repositioned from other agencies.
8 counselors to how many students?
We have 120 students at Northdale, and we've repositioned 8 adolescent counselors who are very skilled, who come to us from various agencies within the community, agencies such as the TAW Center, Parkland, East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff Department. We have persons from the DA's office as well as from the mayor's office who provide us volunteer services and counseling with our students.
Are you doing a lot of speaking around the state about this project? Since this is the only one of its kind in the state right now, are other parishes actively seeking your advice on starting their own?
That's correct. Other parishes are actively seeking and concerned about what we're doing at Northdale and want to replicate Northdale's curriculum throughout the state.
Well, the prospects look good. Fred, you like teaching at Northdale?
Yes.
You think you're going to stay there for a few years?
Hope so.
Good. I'm glad you could both come. Thank you very much. We've been talking to Rebecca Hutichinson and to Fred Guillot of Northdale Academy about Louisiana dropouts. Well, that's it for this week's show. Be sure to join us next week when we'll take a look at some senior citizens who are beginning new careers. Bye-bye.